Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our final day in the life session. My name is Laura. We're going to be talking about our senior program manager role. I'm so excited to be hosting this session with you all. I'm seeing students dropping in their MBA program, so welcome. I see Stern, Columbia, Yale, Booth. Great. And I just want to make sure, can everybody see me okay, hear me okay? Feel free to drop in the chat. Perfect. Awesome. We'll go ahead and just give it a few minutes for everyone to join. Again, my name is Laura. I'm one of our MBA recruiters here. I'm based out of sunny Seattle. Fall has officially hit, and I'm celebrating all the fall things by having my space heater with me. I've got the hand warmers in my cart for Amazon Big Prime Deal days, so I'm excited for the session and all the fall things. See Georgia Tech, Ross, USC. If you're having issues with the audio or you're not able to see the screen, feel free to refresh the browser if you are experiencing issues at any point during today's session. Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to go ahead and talk about all things program managers and what they do at Amazon. They play a pretty incredible role here at Amazon and really make sure that Amazon is delivering the best experience for our internal and external customers. Like so many of our other roles from our past day in the life sessions, our program managers can be found in every line of business at Amazon, from our online shopping and Prime and our brick and mortar stores like Whole Foods, delivery and logistics, which include Prime Air and fulfillment, devices and services like Ring and Echo and Kindle, and entertainment like Prime Video, Amazon Music, Audible, and of course, AWS. Our program managers at Amazon are really responsible for an ongoing effort to achieve an outcome. It's really a collection of projects. Our program managers manage programs of interrelated projects that support ongoing business and or technology goals. They're often in charge of owning and solving an endemic problem. Their roles require strong project management and analytic and process optimization skills. uh, they are utilized when the work to deliver crosses team, organizations, and or regional boundaries. Their role is to create cohesion to ensure solutions delivered, function, and function properly end to end. So that's a little summary of what our program managers do at Amazon. They're really diving deep into those metrics, KPIs to create efficiencies across teams at Amazon to really ensure a smooth, positive experience for our customers. Now, before we go ahead and kick it off, I'm seeing everybody dropping in their MBA program, which is awesome, but I'd love to hear what you've all got in your shopping cart for Amazon Prime Big Deal Days. I know that I mentioned that my exciting purchase is hand warmers. Fall has officially hit in Seattle, so excited to get those delivered to me in the next couple of days. See boots, air fryer, iPad, ergonomic mouse, love it. Roomba, cool. Vinyl records, that's a fun one. Nice. All very practical things. I'm seeing a shoe rack, hatch alarm. I love it. And I'd also love to know what kind of background you guys are coming from as well. So feel free to drop in like what industry you were in before joining your MBA program. Consulting, fintech, IT sales, aerospace. I'm loving the energy from the chat. This is amazing. Tech, financial services, semiconductors, retail. Great, we've got an awesome group of an amazing audience here with a variety of different backgrounds. Awesome. So today, like our other day in the life sessions, I have a few Amazonians here with me that were in your shoes not too long ago that have since been able to have successful careers at Amazon as program managers. But before we go ahead and introduce them, I did want to go over our recruiting timeline, which many of you may already be familiar with, but just wanted to recap that really quickly. So our roles have been posted for our internship MBA roles, and our program manager job is now live. So be sure to check out that job description, check out the qualifications, read through thoroughly, and then submit your resume when you're ready to formally apply. Of course, work with your Career Center just to get an additional set of eyes and to review your resume. They have tried and true templates. We've seen many students find success with their Career Center, so definitely lean on them as you're moving into submitting your application to our team to review. Once you've submitted your resume, our team will decide if we'd like to move forward with you and send you the online assessment. The assessment takes about 90 minutes to complete. It's not anything that you have to study up on. It's just an assessment for us to understand who you are and how you prioritize your work and so on. So the best tip there is find a nice space to just dedicate time to answer those questions honestly for the online assessment. Once you've completed the online assessment, we'll reach out to you closer to that December timeframe, inviting you to interview with us. Only students that have successfully completed the online assessment and that we want to move forward with will be sending you an invitation to interview with us. Intern interviews take place January. They're 2 back-to-back interviews, 45 minutes each. My cheat sheet is, come up with 8 to 10 strong examples that you want to share during that interview, that you can deep dive and really showcase your problem solving, analytical skills, and so on. And we'll be hosting those interview prep sessions probably closer to that December timeframe. But that's a little bit about our recruiting process and timeline. If you have questions, throughout today's presentation, feel free to drop them. And then my teammate Salam will be moderating the chat. And then we'll also save some of those good questions from you all for Jackie and Sam to answer later on during the Q&A portion of today's session. But let's go ahead and kick it off to Sam and Jackie to share their experiences. So feel free to join me on camera, Jackie and Sam, and we'll go ahead and do some introductions.
All right, you just kick it off, jump in.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I am Sam Smith. I was a UCLA Anderson grad back in 2019. I started out my career as a financial analyst at Wellington Management Company in Boston. I was there for 5 years, and in tandem, I had a career doing voiceover for children's like cartoons and video games and things. So I always knew I wanted to merge the technical with the creative. What do you do when you don't know what you want to do with your career? You go to grad school. So I went to grad school, landed the Amazon internship, and through that internship, I was first placed in AWS Service Catalog. From the internship, I transitioned to full-time a year later and was placed in AWS managed catalog operations. And then from there, once you're with an Amazon, one of the amazing things about the company is it is very easy to network, talk to different teams and things like that. So I was pretty upfront with my boss because the internship was a fairly randomized placement that I wanted to stay in AWS for about a year, learn everything I could learn, and then eventually transition to entertainment. So I networked around, talked with probably like 30 to 40 different hiring managers to just figure out where I would fit best, and eventually migrated over to the Prime Video voice team as a program manager. From there, I was in charge of the voice integration for Alexa with Thursday Night Football. And I eventually rotated to a product management role. And then later where I sit now is a product manager technical. So I've definitely been through the program path, product path across many different fields at Amazon. I later moved to kind of an undercover startup team at Amazon where I am today. And for the last 2 years, I've also run ProdCon at Amazon, which is our largest internal product manager conference, where I implement program managers quite often because they are very good at getting things done. So most of the team has consisted of program managers in the past. And that's me.
Great. Sam, I love your experience. You started off as a program manager in AWS and then have been able to transition over to kind of your dream team and kind of where your expertise has been in the past. So thanks for sharing that introduction. Jackie, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Whitaker. I use she, her pronouns. I'm originally from the Boston area, so you might hear an accent slip out every now and then. But I've made my way now to Seattle with Amazon through Washington, D.C., where I was previously a senior consultant with Deloitte Consulting, focused on government and public sector work for supply chain solutions. I attended the University of Michigan at Ross, where I got my MBA, and I completed an internship with Amazon before joining full-time. I actually had 2 rounds of internships. One was a short-term research project in AMZL, where I was focused on reliability, maintenance, engineering research for conveyor belts used in middle mile and last mile operations. I realized that wasn't really my interest area of focus. So when I applied for a full-time internship, or when I applied for an internship, I focused instead on Amazon Robotics in their new product innovation sector. It was really cool, but I also realized again, wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. So when I received a full-time offer, I ended up discussing with my recruiter and switching over into Amazon grocery logistics in our delivery team. So I have gone through a few different sectors of Amazon's very multifaceted business, primarily focused on supply chain and operations. And I have made my home here in Amazon Grocery Logistics as a senior program manager, where I initially came on to lead special projects for our sortation, quality, under the roof and dispatch team. And now under the same team, I lead our standardization and execution team. So essentially, if you ever order groceries online from Amazon Fresh to get delivered to your door, if you have a quality issue with your delivery, that is something that comes to my team. I really loved Laura's question at the start of what's in your Amazon cart for Prime Big Deals days. In my cart, I actually have a bike helmet. Since moving to Seattle, I have taken up biking, and we have a great commuter benefit for electric bikes, either owning a rental or utilizing some of the city bikes throughout the city, wherever you may be based. So I've really taken that on, and shockingly, there is a good amount of sun here in Seattle. Don't believe that it rains all the time.
Amazing. I love that plug for how bike friendly Seattle is. It really is. It's amazing the different bike trails that we have, and they're so beautiful this time of the year. Jackie, I love kind of the pictures that you've shared. I can really tell the scale of operations in that photo. You must be in a fulfillment center of ours, and it's just amazing how vast it is. And it's really exciting that you got to be a part of that during your time at Amazon.
Yes, absolutely. Wanted to share some photos from the different walks of life I've had at Amazon here. So the top left are actually some of our robots that we utilize in our robotic fulfillment center facilities. So these are manufactured through Amazon Robotics, formerly Kiva. And my other photos are from some of the other fulfillment centers where I have gone to do work in process improvements, one being our large fulfillment center network that is enabled by our robotic operations. And then the other one on the right is one of our more manual operations for grocery logistics, having these huge bakery racks where we actually store a lot of your groceries and ensure that we are delivering them on time. And otherwise, I'm part of our fun committee for Amazon Grocery Logistics. So we run different fun events such as ice cream socials. We have an Oktoberfest coming up for the organization. And in the past for my team, we've done a Strava challenge where we tried to hit a 50-kilometer goal across the team. So wanted to share that we also, while we work hard, we also have a lot of fun.
Amazing. Sam, I realized we didn't talk through any of your pictures, so I'd love for you to kind of share what you've curated for us.
So random. Okay, so top left was me and my friend Nicole, who is a technical product manager, program manager at Ring, hosting ProdCon last year. The top right was my cohort, just having some fun. We were all the Amazon interns back in 2018. So I think this is us on a boat or a pier or something like that. The bottom left was my favorite project, which was Ask Alexa. So for Thursday Night Football, the feature that I designed and helped build and launch was you could ask Alexa, play the last touchdown, or tell me who that player is. You can ask random questions, random replays. So that's it advertised on screen, which was really exciting. And then the last one is just my Seattle apartment and my puppy. The fun stuff.
Gosh, I love it. I love the pictures that you guys shared and chose to include. It really showcases like you get to like working at Amazon, you really get to see your work out there in the world. For you being able to see the Ask Alexa featured on football, like how cool is that? And then Jackie, you get to see customers coming to you and saying like, hey, you know, Whole Foods, I love the grocery service that it provides. It provides so much flexibility. So that's one of the things that I love about Amazon, uh, is that you get to see your work out there. Great. Well, now I wanted to go ahead and shift over to our formal Q&A session, and go through some of the questions that I've curated for you to help us understand a little bit more about the program manager role and what your day-to-day looks like. So the first question that I wanted to start off with is, I know that I shared kind of an overview about the program manager role, but I'd love to hear in your own words what you think a program manager means at Amazon, what it means to be a program manager at Amazon.
Yeah, I don't know who wants to go first, but like the best definition I heard, because I had no idea what I was getting into when I signed up for a program role at Amazon. And one of my mentors explained that program is all the how and the when, while product is the what and the why. So program management at Amazon, in my eyes, is taking a project, taking full ownership where you're not actually the one building the project, but you're working with tons of cross-functional teams to set timelines, deliverables, keep everyone on task, herd the cats, and get something delivered. You're also the one who has probably the most visibility and impact to higher level leadership, because you're going to be the one reporting the different statuses of who's on track and who's doing what.
Amazing. I love the herding the cat and being able to bring so many different teams together on creating a solution.
Yeah.
Jackie, did you have anything to add?
Sorry, I think I paused for a minute there. Yes. Oh, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Perfect. I would absolutely agree. I think that's a great way to put it. As a program manager, you really are the cross-functional collaborator. You need to be able to speak a whole bunch of different languages as you're working across different kinds of teams, whether you're trying to work with software engineers or product managers to understand a new feature that will be impacting your part of the business, or if you're working with folks in operations on the floor of a fulfillment center, testing this new kind of tech to see, is it working the way that we expected? And is it going to help us achieve our goals that we've set for this particular project or feature? You also need to be able to write and speak towards the value to the business. And as at Amazon here, we are always customer obsessed. So you always want to keep the customer in mind and help frame that to everyone you're bringing along for the journey.
Amazing. Sam, I know you had mentioned you were a program manager. You started off your career at Amazon as a program manager. Can you talk a little bit about like what your day looked like as a program manager? I know you mentioned AWS, but let's dive in a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm just thinking through, like, one of my favorite projects was one of my first teams, which was AWS Managed Catalog Operations. And I feel like off the bat, you could be handed a project, or you could invent a project. And one thing I was told to do as my first like new to Amazon project was working with our various vendors to get them onboarded to this new API. All that really means is they were using a systematic way to upload basically products to the marketplace. And so I was in charge of this program and tracking the beta and tracking the customers. And in doing this, I dug into the data. I think I was the only one who like actually used like SQL to build a dashboard and see who was using what. And I very quickly realized that of the like initial 16 managers we had onboarded to this API, one over the last 6 months was using it regularly. So off the bat, I realized there was a problem. So I had this whole overall beta program assigned to me. It wasn't going the way everyone thought it was going. And so I kind of took it on myself to figure out what to do from there. So like my day to day was really check on the status of what was going on with the beta program. So I'd wake up in the morning and run the dashboard. And then honestly, a lot of my day was just figuring out what to do next. So a big chunk of this, as we mentioned, was herding the cats and being that kind of cross-functional communicator that Jackie had mentioned so well. So what I actually did was I started setting up daily meetings with our senior engineer to figure out what was going on, to get his buy-in, because I knew he was going to be the one with the sway with the directors in the room. And I realize I'm talking about probably a month in the life instead of a day in the life. But I think all that is to say you're managing your program, you're setting up meetings with important stakeholders, and then you're also setting up meetings to cross-functionally communicate what's happening and drive an eventual change.
Great. I love that you got exposure to working with an engineer. I think a lot of students and audience members would say, like, I have no experience in tech. I want to go into tech. And I think Amazon's a great way where you don't have to have that technical background and you can interface with engineers and build that specific skill set.
And I think,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think a big piece of this is knowing who's going to be influential in the room. As a program manager, you're bringing a lot of people in the room to solve a problem, but you might not be the most trusted person. And as being someone new to Amazon, I realized that that was not me. But if I could get this engineer on my side, I could give him the data and he could actually speak to what I wanted. And then he could kind of drive results from there in partnership with me. So I think it's driving influence on your own, but also knowing who to pull in at the right time to get things done.
Great. And then were there like weekly check-ins or monthly check-ins, quarterly check-ins on how you would showcase kind of the movement on the specific program that you were responsible for?
Yeah, so what we would do is at Amazon, we're really, especially program, you're big into a work back plan. So as soon as I identified a problem, I kind of created a where we wanted to be. So like, let's solve the problem, but what meetings and steps did we need to take to get there? So to Laura, your question, yes, we had weekly check-ins. I would send a weekly status email of who is using the API. I would also set up monthly calls with clients. So basically I would have everyone in the room, the engineer, the L8, our directors, just to hear what the customers were actually saying, because no one was talking to them at the time. So it was a combination of moving forward on the project, but also providing those status updates via, I think they call it like a weekly WBR, a weekly business review. So you provide your updates in a forum like that.
Great. Jackie, I'd love to hear from you about your experience as a program manager. What does your day-to-day look like, whether it was in operations or in grocery, where you're at now?
Yeah, I think I'll take a lead from Sam and go through a day, instead of a day in my life, a week in my life, because I find that for where I sit right now with program management, we really have a pretty consistent weekly battle rhythm. So the Amazon grocery organization, my team actually owns one of our business metrics. So we own a metric called partial order not delivered. So that's when you have an order, there's a number of bags within your order. If you receive some, but not all of your bags, that is a metric that we track pretty closely for our quality and our imperfect order rate. So every week, as we start the week on Mondays, we have a look back period for the previous week where we evaluate how did we perform on this metric across our business here in North America. Then we prepare what kind of actions we took in the previous week to improve on the metric. Were we successful in those actions? Are those actions still in progress? And when do we expect to see success from them? And did we actually see something that we weren't planning? And why did we see that? So we need to gather all of this data. We need to collect anecdotes from our fulfillment centers and from our grocery stores. And then we need to bring all of this into a WBR, or a weekly business report. We report out on these to our leadership team on Tuesdays and answer questions around the different initiatives we're driving, or what other events may have caused dips in performance, and if we think that is going to have a longer term impact on our customers. So some examples right now, we're actually dealing with a lot of contingency planning for the hurricanes that are striking Florida and in the Southeast. So making sure that our teams are safe, but that also we're getting water, food, supplies to people who need it through our Amazon network. So most of these things, we might have some impact on customer metrics, but we don't expect to have a hurricane every week, hopefully, versus if we're seeing a trend such as we switched to a new supplier for our grocery bags, and we had quality tested the paper, but we're actually finding that in certain temperatures and parts of the US, it is degrading our quality, bags are ripping, and we're only partially delivering our orders. So we really need to dig into a lot of data, a lot of anecdotes, and go across different teams who might own spaces that are not within my ownership lane to determine what's the right action plan. So that's really a big Monday, Tuesday. And Wednesday through Friday usually is kind of figuring out some of these actions and following through on them. But we also, per the standardization element of my team, we also work across our tech teams and our ops integration teams, so non-technical teams, to implement longer term projects that will have an impact on these metrics, our cost and our customer experience that really don't fit in 1 week, but have longer term project plans that we work on incrementally on a week by week basis. So it really is a great way to have a bit of structure around owning a business metric, seeing progress, and really driving that customer experience. But then also having a mixture of longer term actions and projects, similar to what Sam experienced, where you're working in cross-functional teams and you're working backwards from an end goal that goalpost might be pretty far out in the future. So managing that with more of your day-to-day responsibilities.
Great. Thanks for that, Jackie. Yeah, you've really put into perspective the scale that you get to own when you're a program manager at Amazon and the impact that it has on our customers. Also love how, current events are really impacting your specific program and how you have to rethink, pivot, and find a solution for our customers to make sure that the things they need are getting delivered to them. Amazing. So I know we talked a little bit about some of the unique components about being a program manager. Can you talk a little bit about, what you think are some other unique components about being a program manager, or what you enjoy about your role as a program manager? Sam, we can go ahead and start with you.
Okay. The thing I loved most is honestly the thing we keep getting to come back to, which is cross-functional leadership and ownership and communication. I've never been in a role before where I got to talk to directors, engineers, other program managers, product managers. I think to be a good program manager, you actually have to have a little bit of everything, like technical or non-technical. Like you need to kind of understand the technical pieces. You need to kind of understand the product pieces. You need to really focus on the customer, like what Jackie said. The other big piece of it that I kind of love is finding a way to influence without ownership. So you're basically theoretically like talking to 10 different teams, all who have their own roadmaps and deliverables and don't necessarily care about what you're doing. And you have to find a way to make them care, get everyone in a room and convince that what you're doing is really important and show them the why to get to that end deliverable. It really is a case of true ownership and like bringing everyone along with you. So like even from a people perspective, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to +1 that. But I also really enjoy how you're able to take these projects and make them your own. So you own typically a really ambiguous space, right? So you're bringing these people together, but you have to bring them along to your vision and how you think that you should tackle the problem, and be open to iterative feedback in order to come to the right solution. But framing the problem and working backwards from it is really important. But if you have an interest area that you'd like to tackle or a technical skill that you'd like to develop, often you are able to utilize your projects or other resources within Amazon in order to build that skill and develop it further. Something that I was really interested in was actually developing a more technical skill set. So in my role, I'm able to utilize SQL and trainings that we have internally in our knowledge network system in order to learn SQL. I came in with like a very basic understanding of it from some of my classes at Michigan Ross. Highly recommend taking one class at least that kind of overviews maybe a coding language just to get your foot in the door. And I was able to take that baseline understanding, apply it to some of the trainings that we had available, and start to utilize that to actually pull data to help solve some of my business problems and get me better insights into what was happening with some of our under the roof operations. Since I'm not in a fulfillment center every day, figuring out how you can find the data was a really important problem for me to solve, or at least even though people could help pull it for me, once I was able to start doing it myself, it really helped me move my projects along faster. So finding an interest area that you have and how you can connect it to your projects is something that is an awesome opportunity at Amazon to allow you to grow your own skill sets, contribute to your teams, and bring everyone else on board along the way.
Great.
Just like double click into that, because what Jackie just said is so incredibly important. Like what she did is amazing. Like something at Amazon, like again, if you want to get the buy-in, the fact that Jackie learned these SQL skills, could pull her own data, like from what I've seen and what like the examples we've shared, like that's the way you get people to trust you and bought into your project. Like you need to do your own data. You should be your own QA. You should care about all of these other roles. And in doing that, people are going to come along with you and be really excited about your project. Like that is so huge in this role.
Yeah. And people are willing to help you. Like I didn't know how to join anything at first, but folks are really willing to help as well. And it's really exciting once you are able to showcase that skill you've learned. Everyone kind of celebrates with you too.
Yeah, I know our Amazon leadership principles are a huge thing at Amazon. And just from your example that you shared, like I can totally see bias for action, ownership, earn trust. And I think, there's so many opportunities at Amazon to continuously exercise and lean into those leadership principles and finding kind of those self-service, learn and be curious opportunities. Amazing. I also loved how you shared the advice of, take some technical skills while you're in your MBA program just to develop that baseline foundational language to be able to speak to engineers, in the future. And I just love that piece of advice. Any other skills needed to be a great program manager at Amazon? I know that you mentioned SQL, being able to collaborate cross-functionally. Anything else before we move on to the next question of what kind of skills are needed to be a good program manager?
Yeah, I think Sam talked a bit before about influencing without ownership. Soft skills are hugely important. So even though I just plugged SQL and take like an intro to some kind of technical course, being able to influence and communicate is the most critical skill of program management. So both in written communications and in in meetings, facilitation, those kinds of communication skills go an incredibly long way. You've likely heard that at Amazon, we are a writing-based organization. So learning how to structure your ideas and put them on paper in a really compelling and cohesive way is incredibly important. But before you even get to the page, you really need to be able to identify who are your stakeholders, what level of buy-in you need from them, and then learn how to discuss the problem with them in a way that makes them care. And that way they're able to help bring a compelling case to whatever kind of problem you're trying to solve or opportunity you're trying to take advantage of. So definitely a little bit of negotiation thrown in there as well, I'm sure. But being able to be a really critical writer, speaker, and communicator.
Yeah, I think numbers 1 and 2 are writing and communicating. The one I love is just like data visualization. Like I had experience with Spotfire and Tableau, so that was super helpful. But I think any experience you have, you can bring to the table. Like I'm mocking stuff up in PowerPoint. I just learned how to use Figma 2 weeks ago. I do worry sometimes. I think we've all gotten this question a lot. Like, what classes do I take to be successful at Amazon? Jackie's right, like take one coding course because it is just like a different, like you're flipping your brain, it's a different way of thinking. But to be quite honest, I feel like my opinion here is a little controversial where you learn a lot on the job and you don't necessarily know what you need. And even taking those classes, you're not going to internalize it and be able to really use it until you're in the job anyway. So I wouldn't go crazy and sign up for 50 million classes. I would get here and see what you need and go from there and just be really willing to learn on the job, ask a ton of questions and fill in the gaps.
Great. Moving on to my next question is, how has Amazon supported you as program managers? And how have you been able to grow and develop your career at Amazon? Sam, I know you've had multiple career roles at Amazon, so if you want to talk a little bit about that, and then we can shift to Jackie too.
Yeah, sure. I feel like any role at Amazon, you get a lot of support from mentorship to, I mean, like I had a lot switching from teams and careers, to be quite honest. The number one, I think, factor I use was just phone tools, like internal, like Amazon, LinkedIn. But I knew I eventually wanted to switch into entertainment. I knew I eventually wanted to switch into products. So something I did was just phone tool everyone who I knew sat in an entertainment Alexa-based building, which is Doppler, looked for L7s and just started randomly shooting out some emails and saying, hey, would you be open to a 30-minute coffee chat? And I got so much support that way just to learn about new roles and careers. Similar, like internally through the job boards, you can look at different, what I did at least was just look at different teams who were hiring and talk to the hiring managers. And this wasn't even to say that I was going to switch teams or apply. I wasn't. I just wanted to learn about different teams and people and roles at Amazon. That's how I actually ended up eventually switching teams, but even being successful within the program manager role. And not just focused on program managers, but as I mentioned, I looped in a lot of engineers. So I was in a non-technical role. I didn't have expertise there. So finding mentors in very different roles for me specifically did end up being really helpful for the program manager role aspect.
Great.
Yeah, I think something that I have found really helpful is that within our organization and across Amazon, there is a really strong focus on mentorship and being an owner of your career journey. So something that we do is quarterly career conversations between yourself and your manager. And I have found this to be really helpful for having a set cadence and time where you block off an hour or more if you want, and you talk with your manager about how are you achieving personal development goals, what support do you need, and where can you tap in. So something that I was really excited for was that as I joined the Amazon Grocery Logistics Organization, I originally was an individual contributor, but in my past, I've been a manager, leading a team. And I really missed having that experience. So I discussed it with my manager. We set some goals for how I could move from individual contributor into manager. And then within the same team, I ended up switching and building out a team underneath me. So being really clear on what you want to achieve and gathering support for it, whether it's internally for how you maybe want to move vertically, or externally, like Sam said, branching out into a new horizon in a totally new field. Being clear and seeking support was really critical, and people are really open to it here at Amazon.
Great. I love how both of you mentioned, you were assigned to a team that you weren't familiar with, that you weren't extremely passionate about, but you were able to commit to the program assigned, build trust within your team, and have those conversations of, this is where I'd like to be. How do I get there? And I think the career conversations is a really great mechanism for you to continue to develop and grow your career, whether you switch over um, to grocery and building out your team, to being a part of the voiceover project at Amazon. It's really cool to see, you being able to navigate to the team that you are most passionate about. So I have to say, for the students listening, you'll likely be placed on a team that you've never heard on, but that's by design, for you to learn about Amazon's culture, to earn trust. And then from there, once you join full time, you'll be able to pivot your career towards something that you're really excited about. Amazing. So I wanted to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. I know that students have been asking questions throughout today's session, and I know Salam has been curating some of those great questions from our audience. So Jackie, Sam, I'm going to open it up to you and see if there's any specific questions you'd like to respond to.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, students, for joining today. Thank you so much for all of the great questions. For Sam and Jackie, if you can talk about how your work is related to strategy and the overall, I guess, Amazon organization. So how often, how much do you guys get to strategize in your role?
Actually seen it both ways. So I've seen program managers who are in charge of entire orgs who are, again, working cross-functionally and taking inputs from different teams to define kind of like a year, 3-year, 5-year roadmap. So I think one side of it is working with teams to get the inputs to put together kind of this overarching strategy plan. The other way I've seen it is kind of owning your own career, taking things into your own hands and defining your own strategy. Like I've also seen program managers, myself, and it sounds like Jackie included, who identify a problem and come up with a strategy to fix that. And that turns into something bigger. There was a great example of one of my mentors from UCLA who did that and actually ended up founding what's a massive org now with AWS Marketplace.
Yeah, plus one that all day. I think something that's really great about program management as well is that you're able to work with your leaders to define how your space is going to influence your overarching business. So we have sessions twice throughout the year for operational planning, where we come together as leadership teams for our part of the business in order to define what are the goals for next year, what are the problems that we have or like the opportunities in the market that we need to take advantage of. And since we can't do everything, how are we going to prioritize? So actually in about 2 weeks, our team will be coming together. We're spread across Seattle and New York. So we'll be coming together for an offsite in New York across our organization to have another one of these like operational planning sessions. So being able to not only drive within your ownership space, setting a strategy for how you're going to achieve end of year goals and reporting on that on a week over week basis, but also working with your leaders to translate both up and down what are the ways and means of achieving the strategy for this year, what you've learned throughout the trials and tribulations of trying to achieve it, and what goals you need to set for next year in order to achieve larger Amazon business directives.
Thank you both. I think we can all agree that here at Amazon, there's always something happening. We call it the Amazon for, more reasons than one. And we encourage, everybody, no matter what your role is, to think big and create those ideas. And you never know if it'll turn into something greater, like you mentioned. So, Jackie, this question's for you. You mentioned ownership of the partial order not delivered metric and reviewing unexpected events. So, how did you balance immediate problem solving with long-term customer impact when those issues arise?
Oh, that's a great question. So really what we do on our team is we need to prioritize pretty much everything. So even though there might be something really hot short term, depending on where you are on your roadmap for some of your long-term projects or priorities, you always need to continuously evaluate to rank and stack everything. So in terms of how we approach this is that we're always working backwards from our goals. So short-term actions sometimes will be things that do need to be prioritized and have and have key focus on them for a week or 2 weeks, etc. But looking at what are our end goals, what do we need to deal with now versus what can be dealt with later, and taking that and prioritizing it. So we continuously look at these across our customer experience metrics, quality, cost, and productivity, so that we can have a focus area around holistically how are we best working backwards from our customer experience and our best way of servicing. So typically, we do try to, as I mentioned, we try to kind of break up the week where we have action on our short-term goals, and then in the latter half of the week, we focus on long-term goals. But sometimes, priorities shift, and you need to have stronger focus on the short-term and your longer-term goals. Like you have Slack built into your timeline, or you're able to put them a bit lower on your priority list. And being able to communicate and escalate where support is needed to your leadership team or to your cross-functional stakeholders is where you're really able to get the buy-in for when you need to make those kinds of prioritization decisions. So typically, like if there is an unexpected shift in priorities off of your typical battle rhythm, that is something that being a strong communicator allows you to get buy-in from other teams, and make sure that the business is staying on a steady float as you're dealing with a fire here or a fire there.
Great.
Thank you for sharing that. Laura, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
No, I think we can move over to the next question.
Yeah, okay. You both talked about how you've owned your career and networked internally. So the question is, how do you balance internal networking with still doing your job so that your, team, your leader does not get the impression that you're not dedicated to your job? Or did your manager also advocate for you moving around the organization, as well as how did you advocate for yourself? Which I think people are very impressed to hear that Amazon actually supports this. So Sam, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah. Little bias on this one. I actually feel very strongly that this looks differently in the internship versus full time. I feel like when you're an intern here, you do what you need to do to get that return offer if that's something you care about. And I actually would not go crazy networking until you're feeling really, really strong with the culture and your job. That's not to say to do none of it, but I would maybe do more serious networking towards the end of my internship with a little bit interspersed when you first get here. That's very different once like I had the job. I've done it both ways. So I've switched teams twice now at Amazon. The first one was from AWS to Prime Video. And in that case, I was pretty upfront with my manager. I did not tell him I was leaving until I had an offer, but he knew that I was really interested in entertainment. He knew that my placement on the team was through an internship program. So we did have very open conversations about that, so that when I did eventually have the conversation about leaving and switching teams, it was fairly expected. Versus when I switched to the team I'm on currently, it was after a massive reorg in my organization. I loved the team, but I'd been with it for a while, wanted to change. And in that case, I didn't have the conversation with my manager until I had the return offer and had done some networking around. Beyond actual career switches, though, I think if you're in the full-time job, it's very, very normal and encouraged to network around. As mentioned, like I wanted a mentor in the entertainment space, so I just did a few random reach outs to see who would talk to me and found a mentor that way. There are also very formal programs for doing so at Amazon, and it's very normal and expected.
Yeah, and I think just to add on from more of the internal side, being open and honest about your career goals, but also fitting them into like what your ownership areas are right now, is a great way to get buy-in and communicate like with your manager or other leaders on your team, like where you want to build your skill set. And sometimes it means, tapping into an opportunity that might be a little bit outside of your ownership lane typically, so that you can share, you'd like to build in this skill set. So you're going to work more closely on this kind of project or work more closely with that kind of team. And it ties into your end of year goals in XYZ way, and it benefits the business and the portion that you own by ABC. And that's a really great way to have a natural transition into some of the spaces that you might want to own in your team or in your larger organization. So for me, with wanting to move from an individual contributor to having direct reports, working all towards a business metric, a lot of these communications started with my manager for how could I showcase my ability to manage and lead. And a lot of that was taken on by leading these cross-functional working groups towards business problems on my strategic projects, showing how I was able to advocate in that space, and then being able to shift some of the projects and focus that I had into the space that I wanted to own in this kind of quality space, so that it was a really natural progression for when we needed to actually build out more ownership in the space for some of the challenges that we were having as the business grew, and we needed more attention to it. So as I was already interested in that opportunity, my manager was able to advocate for me to take on that space and showcase the skill sets that I had already developed in order to move over and switch into that role. So being able to have this advocate, prove it with data points and experiences, and really be able to showcase your journey is one way that if you're looking kind of internally, how might you grow and develop or kind of shift roles within a team, you're still able to drive that. No, even though like we're also very supportive of the external side too.
Thank you for sharing that. So my final question to you both, if you could please share your experience or an example of how you've applied Lean or Six Sigma in your work, if any.
I was going to say we definitely lean on a lot of lean principles. I think some of the things that we do on my team and across my org is that we'll often host Kaizen events with certain fulfillment centers that are having challenges across multiple quality metrics. So usually we're bringing together teams across delivery execution, under the roof operations, ops integration, like a lot of kind of operation sounding teams, but also program teams and technical folks who own some of the products and features that we use in our operation to then run a Kaizen event and identify where there might be waste or where there might be an adherence to our standard operating procedures, where there might be gaps in our knowledge and training that we're giving to the people who are actually running the operation on the ground. And we've actually come out of those by creating recommendations using things like fishbone diagrams in order to identify all of the different opportunity areas to improve across metrics with a fulfillment center. So we definitely utilize a lot of the principles in our daily work, but we'll also take focus time to really tackle like where we're seeing an issue, build out a structured report, and then take the learnings and apply it across other fulfillment centers who might be facing similar issues.
I have anything to add. I didn't actually know what that was, so I learned something with a quick Google and Jackie's example. Thank you, Jackie.
Great. I know we've got just a couple minutes left in today's session, so I just wanted to thank you both for your time and sharing what a week, a month looks like as a program manager and the amazing work that you all do. So I wanted to close this session with just one piece of final advice that you have for our audience who are first years looking for a long-term career at Amazon.
Yeah, I guess my number one is just like own yourself, own your job, like do your own QA, do your own testing, do your own data, like come up with your own strategies. If you see a problem, go fix it. At Amazon, I think this goes beyond program management, but really like you own your career. Like you could invent something and be running AWS Marketplace 5 years later. So I think it really depends on where you want to end up. But Amazon is very much like take it into your own hands, figure it out, get it done, which is kind of core of program regardless. But really anything is possible once you get here, as long as you think from that ownership perspective.
Yeah, I think the final piece of advice I would give is really to dive into the leadership principles. This is maybe an overall Amazon advice, but as a program manager, I think you're really combating a lot of the leadership principles because oftentimes you'll find that two of them are at odds with each other. You want to think big and drive strategy, especially as it impacts the business, but you need to dive deep to figure out what's wrong. And finding the right balance between those two, walking the right line and communicating that across multiple different levels and layers is really critical for the program management role. And it can be a little bit tough to adapt to at first. But once you start to get the handle of it and be able to think in these multitudes across our leadership principles, it really opens a lot of doors for how you're able to drive your projects, gain buy-in, and achieve your goals.
Great. Thank you so much again for those words of advice. I'm hoping that our audience today is able to take away a better idea of what a program manager looks like at Amazon. Thank you again for your time, and looking forward to seeing everyone's applications come through. So thanks again.
Thanks all. Nice to meet everyone.